All right, I'm live. What's going on, everyone? How you guys doing tonight? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is Hollywood After Dark. I understand I am a few minutes late tonight. I do apologize for that one. Had some last minute things to take care of that snuck upon me without my knowledge or really even my consent. But isn't that how life works? You know, isn't that how life works most of the time? It never goes the way you want it to, folks. Not one damn bit. But of course, tonight, just like last night, is all about Spider Man. It is all about Spider Man. I have put together three news stories, all different. The last one is going to be what I believe personally is a definitive reason. Maybe not like everything people are going to want, but I believe is the definitive reason why Sony needs Disney in regards to Spider-Man. And I think I have enough information to really kind of show you guys why it's important. Never mind, I tracked down an elusive piece of info that a lot of people have been absolutely positively misquoting because they don't ever actually read, and the people reporting on it apparently aren't reporting on this either. But I tracked it down. I tracked it all down. Sony is not in the right, actually, at all. And I'm going to prove it, especially when you look at it from a business perspective. So they don't need Disney. Oh, you're so wrong. You're so wrong. You are so wrong. You literally have no idea how wrong you are when you say that. Would I go on the John Campea show? Yeah, 100%. I met Campea. I've talked about that. Like a couple weeks ago, I met Campea. But no, you're really wrong if you think that Sony is 100% in the right. Disney might have been a dick. I don't think anyone's going to deny that fact. But no, when you look at it from a financial perspective, there is outright, overwhelming evidence to suggest that Disney is actually the best thing for Sony in this particular situation. That being said, I did not get. I mean, there's a lot of info that I should do like an actual like full blown documentary on this shit or something. This is a lot of info to go through, a lot of stuff to look at, but it's crazy shit. Should Disney buy Sony? No, Disney should not buy Sony. Disney doesn't need to buy anything. What we're talking about here is going to be business as well as the successful business that everybody wants. And Sony, if you go and you look at their track record, they don't provide, right? They don't provide, not anymore. And I think that gets massively, woefully overlooked here. All right, what are we about? We're about characters on screen. We're about good fucking stories. We want to see good shit. There's a lot of business that goes there. There's also a lot of fucking ego that goes there. And I talked about that last night. I did talk about that last night when Sony did Damage Control. This one, again, is going to be another one that I think is going to be pretty fucking fascinating. I find it fascinating, at least. You guys might differ, and that's okay. You guys, hold on, my YouTube is messing up on me. It's not showing me that. There we go. Now I'm live. It's like, am I live? Am I live? Which is worse, Spider-Man 3 or Amazing Spider-Man 2? Amazing Spider-Man 2. Definitely Amazing Spider-Man 2. So, Jellyfish. I think you are kind of on point there with Disney being, or not Disney, but Sony being a bit of a hit and miss. More misses than hits in recent years. Let's see. Without Sony, the superhero movie genre would not be popular. Dude, I like to take you back 2 years prior to X-Men. As good as Spider-Man was and as much money as Spider-Man 1 made in 2002, it wouldn't be here if it wasn't for X-Men raising the bar. Don't forget. Don't let your blind fanboyism. Right? Sony made Ghost Rider 2. They did. They absolutely did. Anyway. All right. So we're already running late tonight. This section, before we get to the phone calls, is going to take a little bit of time, I believe. So you guys have been warned. We're going to go through three stories, and they're interesting stuff here because again they're all Spider-Man related, but it's okay. All right, it's it's all right. Okay, let's jump over here. Oh, there we go. Nope, wrong button. Right button. There we go. If I could hit the right button, it would actually work for me in the way that I want. So anyway. Hold all questions, hold all comments, chat amongst yourselves, and enjoy the ride. As we get going on this thing here, 1 second. Well, OBS catches up. Okay. So with Spider-Man and Sony and Disney and all the kerfuffle that comes from it, all the fighting, all the online nonsense that's happening in regards to this particular situation, Twitter is just a veritable minefield. But it does kind of feel that there are a lot more people that are supportive of Disney than Sony, and it's been like that since, well, yesterday when the news broke. And even today, before getting ready to record this, I brought up Twitter. I brought up the top trending. We can see here that trending in Washington with 56,000 tweets, not just in Washington, but all over the place. We have Save Spider-Man from Sony. And that particular hashtag, again, a lot of popularity, a lot of people talking about it, might not be as legitimate as you might think. In fact, according to this report here from Screen Rant, it says it looks like bots are helping Save Spider-Man trend. And that's no good, especially when you want to try to get public support on one side or another. This is muddying the waters because this is what Twitter is for. Nothing of value, just lots of trolling. So it says here, fans trying to save Spider-Man from leaving Marvel Studios' Marvel Cinematic Universe got Save Spider-Man trending, but it looks like bots are helping and targeting Sony Pictures. That's true. A lot of people I've been critical of Sony because I pay the hell attention to what's going on. But anyway, back in 2015, Sony Pictures' second Spider-Man franchise stalled out with the lackluster reception of 2014's The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and the studio ended up striking a deal with Marvel Studios. The partnership allowed Spider-Man to join the MCU, and Tom Holland was later cast as Peter Parker. Holland's take on Spider-Man has become beloved by fans, having appeared in 2 solo movies and 3 team-ups over the last few years. As a result, many fans were devastated by the news of Sony and Marvel potentially parting ways, causing Spider-Man to exit the MCU. People were furious yesterday, absolutely furious at this. I did a ranting video from my car. That's how mad I was. I will fully admit I had a heated Marvel fanboy moment, and I stand by it. I do. I stand by my commentary. Anyway, both hashtag Save Spider-Man and hashtag Save Spidey trended on Twitter, followed by hashtag Save Spider-Man from Sony as the tide turned against Sony Pictures, and fans blamed the studio for Spider-Man's exit from the MCU. However, many fans noticed that Twitter bots flooding the Spider-Man hashtags, potentially blowing the issue out of proportion. These are cases of similar or identical tweets going out from different accounts. While some can be attributed to humans stealing the tweets in an attempt to go viral, many appear to be bots. And this is true. So this is a tweet here from a guy named Senior 100 Tifico Datos. Don't know what that means. It's all in Spanish. We can see here that we see kind of a lot of the same tweets, perhaps, right? Well, let's get a better look. So this is what we see quite a bit coming out from the Spider-Man hashtag and Save Spider-Man and Save Spider-Man from Sony. It's a lot of the same stuff. Tony Stark did not travel back in time to get the Infinity Stones just so Sony could fuck it up by taking Spider-Man out of the MCU. You can't just take Tom Holland after we fall in love with him. I mean, we can see it's quite literally the same thing, right? It's just the same tweet over and over and over again. And this is not uncommon. This is not uncommon in regards to Twitter activism because Twitter is algorithm run, it is hashtag run, it is data run, and oftentimes it's easily manipulated for these types of hashtags, especially activism hashtags, which is why everything on Twitter should be taken with an absolute utter grain of salt. Now, fans have speculated that Disney is behind the bots in an attempt to turn public sentiment against Sony, but that seems far-fetched, and I have to absolutely agree on that one. Look, I love a good tinfoil theory as much as anybody else, I really do, but it does feel like this is more of a third-party aspect or a third-party effort versus anything else. Now, more likely the bots are part of a fan effort to encourage Sony and Disney to come to an agreement that keeps Spider-Man in the MCU. Fans have also stated or started petitions to keep Spider-Man in the MCU, created plenty of memes that have flooded social media sites, and even launched a ridiculous Facebook event to storm Sony and save Spider-Man. We will be talking about that actually in another video. But this is true. This is a petition that popped up on change.org. In fact, change.org mailed this to me multiple times today. Right? This particular petition from Nate Phillips in Highland, Indiana. By the time I took a screenshot, which is literally about 10 minutes before this recording, 65,000 people almost have signed it, and people People want to see it. People really want to see Spider-Man back in the MCU, considering this goofy photo is kind of what took Tony. This upside down Peter Parker Stark Industries Stark Internship Award, this fake award, and that goofy look on his face, that's what prompted Tony to create time travel, to go back, to save Peter. He went back to save Peter. That's why he went back. That's why fans care. Fans can see that thing, right? We can all see it happening. Now, this is what it says. After the news today that Sony walked away from their deal with Disney, I cannot in good faith, and I didn't say this was a good petition, I cannot in good faith stand by while Spider-Man and his fans around the world become collateral damage. Spider-Man in the MCU has brought some of the best memories in modern cinema history. Sony, you must let go of this property and renegotiate with Disney to keep all of the fans happy. Please join me in standing against Sony, who I'll be boycotting until this matter is properly resolved. Share the petition and let's make our voices heard. And then he leaves the website there and everything else. So, I mean, listen, are people going to boycott Sony? Maybe. I'm not going to lie. Maybe. They kind of produce crap movies. What's the next big Sony movie coming out? Right? Jumanji in December up against Star Wars. The trailer for Jumanji looked pretty terrible to me. I don't know if it's going to be any good. It could be. The last one was okay. People seem to like it. It did nearly $1 billion. They're hoping this one does $1 billion. But as I've said before, and I will reiterate my point, if Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker does well, like if it's received better, then people are going to probably go see that a few more times and Jumanji might take the hit. These things absolutely happen. And it's not uncommon. And you know what? We'll have to wait and see. But in the meantime, take everything on Twitter with a grain of salt. And let's hope Sony and Marvel do come to the table to discuss this, because at this point, there's been no official statement from Sony or from Marvel, from Kevin Feige, from Disney. They haven't said a word. And Sony's kind of controlled the narrative and done damage control and tried to make themselves out to be the victim when they're really not as much as you might think. And of course, that's all talk for another day, another time, and another video on this channel. But of course, I always want to know your opinions, so please write them down below. Okay, so continuing on with the Spider-Man drama extravaganza, because there is always so much drama surrounding this one. Apparently people have taken a cue from the desire to fight and attack, I don't know if attack, but definitely to storm Area 51, because Marvel fans are now planning to storm Sony to save Spider-Man. I mean, I understand the idea of going after Area 51. There could be aliens in them there hills, or that there Groom Lake. There could be. There's probably not, but there could be. It's kind of a Schrodinger's alien until someone gets in there and documents the whole thing. Spider-Man is fictional. He doesn't exist. This much I know. This much I believe many of us know. So storming Sony Pictures to save Spider-Man is kind of ridiculous. However, the article here says, if you thought the craziness surrounding Marvel and Sony and the deal for Spider-Man was over, you thought wrong. An event has now been started in the vein of Storm Area 51, but with Sony Pictures. The official title of the Facebook event is Storm Sony and Bring Spider-Man Home to the MCU. At the time of this, about 2,000 people have listed as interested. There might not need to be a need to storm Sony if the two can get the deal done. But after the official statement released by Sony regarding the split, it doesn't seem like it will be likely. You know, the thing with that is, and as I've said before, Sony was completely doing damage control with that. They were basically putting it back on Disney, taking Kevin Feige away from them, considering there was no talk of the proposed deal, whether it's 50% or 30% or 5%. So we don't really know yet. We just know about the damage control. But anyway, people out there were supportive of this. In fact, on Twitter, this guy here, Frick Frack Fruit Snack, says instead of storming Area 51, we should storm Sony HQ. Help keep Tom Holland in the MCU. I don't know if he meant to rhyme, but he did. So congratulations, Frick Frack. You kind of win parts of the internet today. But we also had the Essential podcast here saying, forget Area 51, time to storm Sony. This guy here saying Spider-Man is no longer supposedly to appear in the Avengers or Marvel, and I'm mad. Let's storm Sony. And he's got what appears to be Charlie Heaton from Stranger Things is his avatar. So the emojis up there at the top: knife, 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 fire, alien, ring, splooge. I don't know, but we have this one here from LA Kajilig, whatever. And I love this image, by the way, just the Spider-Verse of the 3 Spider-Mans, which I believe a lot of people would really love to see. If they did this, if Sony did this, if they announced this, it could potentially save them, right? It could potentially save this crap storm. That's if Tom Holland actually decides that he wants to come over and be part of the MCU. So this is the image itself. This is the Facebook invite itself. Storm Sony and bring Spider-Man home to the MCU. Saturday, October 19th, 2019 at 12 p.m. to 9 a.m. or to 9 p.m. At Sony's. They want to storm 25 Madison Avenue, New York. Don't quite know why, but their description says, "We storm Sony Pictures." Oh, it's Sony Corporation. "In solidarity, dress as Spider-Man costumes and bring our boy home. This is a peaceful demonstration, and violence will not be tolerated." Sure. You're going to... Okay, well, at least they also want to hit up Sony Pictures in California. They want to do a 2-coast front. They want to have two coasts, 2 theaters of war, of protest battle, so to speak, in order to bring Tom Holland back to the MCU. And I have to actually give these guys a lot of credit for coordinating dual fronts. But this isn't the first time. This isn't the first time that fans have attempted to protest a studio to see some change. Now, and I love to look for any opportunity I can to talk about the Snyder Cut, but this is true. Fans planned to protest Warner Brothers to get Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League released. This was 2 years ago. This was 2 years ago. Fans organized a protest outside of Warner Brothers in Burbank in order to do it. And this is the page. It's still up right now. On January 6, 2018, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., Burbank, California, released a Snyder Cut photo op at Warner Bros. I'm not kidding. Not kidding. The description reads, "Join me and other Snyder fans as we take a photo in front of Warner Brothers with the Release a Snyder Cut sign while wearing our Zack Snyder shirts, DC shirts, costumes to peacefully show our support for the release of the Snyder Cut of Justice League. After we take the photo, we will share it on all of our social media. So hopefully it will spread and get Zack himself so he can see it like he saw the Thank You Zack Snyder video that I made." But what I love, look, what I love is this one. They say, don't bring any signs. They're going to have the one sign only, just bring cosplay. And absolutely no shirts, signs insulting Warner Brothers, Joss, etc. will be allowed in the photo. Like they were coming at this from very much a place of love, right? They were coming at this from a place of love. And originally I kind of mocked it for some of the language because it felt like a photo shoot for cosplayers. But at the end of the day, they pulled it off. Not many people showed up. Not many people showed up, but they had the Release a Snyder Cut banner. They stood outside of Warner Brothers in Burbank, and they took the photo and they let it be known. And you know what? They were mocked heavily for this, but they organized and they did it. And at the end of the day, here it is 2 years later, we're still talking about the Snyder Cut. Just at Comic-Con, they had they raised like $20,000 to fly a banner overhead. You've got Aquaman himself, Jason Momoa, having just said a couple days ago that he saw the Snyder Cut. Zack Snyder showed it to him, and he just said it was sick. And people are always going to be talking about it. It keeps it alive. Now, will this protest do the exact same thing? No, it won't. It really won't. It's not going to do it at all. But people are mobilizing, and they're mobilizing off of Twitter. And as we saw with that previous story with the bots on Twitter, this sort of thing could potentially turn into a pretty big deal. I would be very curious to see what's going to happen on October 19th. I don't know why October 19th. To me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But I'd be curious to see what's going to happen when this thing takes place. And of course, I'll be covering it, and I'll let you guys know what comes from Twitter and the photos and everything else. But I am curious to know your thoughts. Do you think that this kind of protest is going to help anything? Do you think by the time, because my personal take on it is this. I think that they're going to solve this thing one way or the other, like definitively by D23 by Friday or Saturday. It's going to be the big thing over the weekend. It's going to overshadow D23. There's going to be definitive something happening. So there's no real need to have this protest in 2 months. But if everything goes tits up and nothing gets done, then people may do it. And the rest of us who are at all invested in this saga will probably be very curious to see what happens next. All right. Let me just get a quick drink of water here, and we'll go into the last one. This one's a long one. This is the creme de la creme. So, you've been warned. Okay, over the course of the past couple of days, we have seen a lot of commentary online about whether or not Sony's in the right or Disney's in the right for this deal with Spider-Man in the MCU falling through. It's anyone's fault. Everyone's talking about it, right? Some people out there are like, no, Disney is greedy, wanting 50%. Disney is this, Disney is that. And then some people are like, no, Sony's an idiot because they're an idiot and they can't run anything. And I talked about this last night with Tom Rothman. This is the dude who oversaw X-Men Origins Wolverine, wanted to sew Deadpool's mouth shut or was okay with it, and didn't understand the Deadpool movie when they were trying to work on that footage that got leaked out 5 years later that prompted it to become a global success and nearly $1 billion property. And this is a guy that's running the show at Sony. And so this is why Sony needs Disney. This is true. This is entirely why Sony needs Disney. Now, this is what happened yesterday. Sony pulls Spider-Man out of the MCU over profit-sharing disputes with Disney. Internet erupts as we know it to erupt. Internet comes out and everyone is just like, over it, right? Well, Spider-Man, and this is something we're finding out, this is the deal that kind of was talked about by that anonymous source that came out of Sony, right? The one that came through a Deadline correspondent that Sony's pretty tight with. So what we learned is that Disney and Sony Pictures have failed to reach new terms that would have given the former a 50-50 co-financing stake going forward, which means that the web slinger is no longer part of the MCU, according to Deadline. Also, according to Deadline, Disney's offer for a 50-50 co-financing arrangement between the studios might extend to other films in the Spider-Man universe. Wasn't even met with a counter by Sony, suggesting that the latter isn't currently interested in entertaining a renegotiation of the current agreement. Now, I get it from Sony's perspective, right? You want to keep as many eggs in your basket as humanly possible. You want to make sure that you get as much money as humanly possible. This is a business. And I get it. If you look at the Spider-Mans here, Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, business is good. Spider-Man 1, 90% fresh, 67% audience score. I still feel that should be higher if I'm being honest with you. Spider-Man 2, 93% with 82% audience score. Spider-Man 3, 63%, not fresh, but not rotten either. Right there at the cusp. Right there at the cusp. And of course, 51% from the audience score. So we know that these movies have done well. In fact, looking at even the social media or the Rotten Tomatoes for the Amazing Spider-Man franchise, we can see here that the first one did pretty well, 72% from critics, 77% from audiences, 52% for the sequel, and 64% from audiences. Now, the Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the one really here worth looking at. And that's just because of, this is what happened because this 52% and 64% failed to churn out as much money as Sony wanted. So they struck a deal with Marvel and gave us Spider-Man Homecoming, which grossed well over $170 million more worldwide than the previous film, Amazing Spider-Man 2. You got Spider-Man Far From Home, which has a slightly lower tomato meter for critics, but a higher audience score. People really, really like it. In fact, coming over here, just looking at the unadjusted worldwide grosses for Spider-Man films from Sony, because this is what gets brought up a lot by people. People are talking about the earnings, right? People want to look at the original Spider-Man films and how much they've earned. Fine. Spider-Man Far From Home right now is the top grosser with $1.1 billion. Then $890 million for Spider-Man 3. Now, one of the reasons why Spider-Man 3 did as much as it did was because in 2007, that weekend, IMAX, after a surge from screenings of 300 a few months prior in March of 2007, had expanded outward. Edwards, Regal, AMC's had created all of these faux IMAX, and they charged more for the ticket. In fact, in San Diego, the faux IMAX we got in San Diego at the time was running 3 days of non-stop Spider-Man 3 in IMAX, 24-hour screenings. And it wasn't the only city to do it. Many people did. I don't even know why that's up. So a lot of other people, did that. Hold on here. Let me just, I don't know why that, hold on, that fucked me up. Okay. Anyway, okay, let me go back to where that. So anyway, so Spider-Man 3 had the 24-hour screenings, right? 24-hour screenings. And then, but look at Amazing Spider-Man, 757 million in 2012. Amazing Spider-Man 2, 709 million. It dropped money. It lost money. And they were looking for it to be, well, big. It was meant to set up, was it Sinister Six and Amazing Spider-Man 3. They were trying to mimic Marvel coming off of Avengers and all the success they'd seen from everything else. And they failed, which is the reason why we got Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man Far From Home. But even look down here at the bottom. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which gets brought up quite a bit. Yes, it won Best Picture, or Best Animated Picture. And it only grossed, again, not as much money. Look, okay. Coming over here to their Rotten Tomatoes page, we can see 97% and a 93% audience score, which is great, which is fantastic. But coming over here to just their box office, they had a $90 million production budget. Its domestic gross was only 190, so that's not 3 times the amount of production. And its worldwide take home was only 375 million. Not as much money. Granted, not as much of a budget. But when you put it up against Venom, which got a 29% on the tomato meter from critics, and the audience score of 80%, and it is better than people give it credit for. I absolutely agree with you. I agree with a lot of people on that one. We can still see here that this is one that ultimately got lucky, and it did gross 856 million off of a reported budget of 100 million. So there's a lot there. Like, they've done well sometimes. But if you just even go back and look at at Spider-Man's grosses from back here, we can see that they haven't done a lot really since Spider-Man 3. And that was, well, I mean, that was a long time ago. Spider-Man 3 was 2007. That was 12 years ago. And even critically speaking, Spider-Man 2 was considered the pinnacle of Spider-Man films. And that one ultimately came out in 2004, 15 years ago. So the franchise under Sony has done just okay. And I know people out there don't want to say that. They don't want to say just okay, but we're talking business. We're talking the business. Now, compare all of that versus the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All of these films, right? And you put that together, and yes, Spider-Man Far From Home and Spider-Man Homecoming are on here. But just look at that. Avengers Endgame, 2.795 bill, beating out Avatar. Avengers Infinity War, 2.048 billion. Avengers, 1.5 billion. Age of Ultron, 1.4 billion. Black Panther, 1.3 billion. Iron Man 3, 1.2. I mean, these more and more of these films are getting into the $1 billion range, or getting close. And a lot of these have outperformed previous Sony movies, Sony Spider-Man films, without inflation. And so there's that. But even with inflation, they may not actually beat them out quite often. So we're seeing this machine. And the reason why I bring this up is this is a machine. And they turn out these movies, and these movies are generally, for the most part, quite good. And they have a very dedicated fan base. And the dedicated fan base just put 1.110.4 billion into Spider-Man Far From Home. And if you put it all together, the Marvel Cinematic Universe in total, $22.5 billion, with an average of 981 million per film. And this is including both Spider-Man films that are in the MCU. So not all of that money goes to Marvel, but you subtract out about 2 billion from that, and it's still $20.5 billion that has gone to Marvel. And if we're talking about this from a business perspective, if we're talking about this from money, if we're talking about this from the company coming on in and basically helping Sony grow because Sony needs it. Sony has shown time and time again, they're on their third iteration of Spider-Man, fourth if you count the end of the Spider-Verse, that they have trouble managing these franchises. And Marvel is coming in, quite frankly, and offering up just a hell of a deal. And I'm saying this not for 50%, but the story that came out today is saying Disney reportedly wanted 30%. Not 50%, but 30%. So that's not that bad. That's not 50, right? According to this, it says the report stated that this deal was rejected by Sony, who then came back with more compromises, which were then rejected by Disney. However, we never got any details as to what those compromises were or how far Disney was willing to concede. Now, in a new report from Hollywood Reporter, it says that Disney was looking for a 30% stake, meaning that Sony and Disney would be splitting the cost and revenue 70-30 in Sony's favor, though it's not clear if this includes the spin-offs. However, as Spider-Man Far From Home broke $1.1 billion, apparently it reinforced both sides' way of thinking. Sony thought they didn't need Disney anymore, and Disney didn't want to leave more money on the table. And to be fair, I don't blame them. I don't blame either company. I just want to make that abundantly clear. I understand Tom Rothman has the job of protecting the assets from the company, right? Or protecting the assets, like, Sony's assets, and making sure that their number one franchise is in fact protected. That part I do absolutely get. However, looking at the hard numbers, looking at the critical responses, we can see that fans and we can see that the box office is aiming more towards working with Marvel, because Marvel has had 23 films, all of whom have been a success, with maybe the Incredible Hulk, which was their second outing. And that was back in 2008. So it's plus if they're doing the 70-30 split, it's still Disney ponying up 30%. And there is a big argument here that people have made, and I've seen this pop up quite a bit. What about the merch? Right? What about the merch? Disney gets all the money for the merch, and that's not fair to Sony. And I see this a lot. A lot of people bring this up. And I'm sure you guys are right now thinking that too. Like, oh, well, what about the merch? I tracked down that particular information because when everyone's talking about Disney and Marvel having all the merch rights, they don't talk about where it came from or how it happened or what as much information as we know about the deal is. So I went and found it. This is coming from a November 10th, 2011 quarter four earnings call from Bob Iger to shareholders all the way back 8 years ago almost. In this passage here, it says Marvel's Thor and Captain America were among the top 10 non-sequel releases of the year, and we are pleased with the performance of both films, and the true benefits of our Marvel acquisition should be quite visible in 2012. Obviously, this is before Avengers came out, so yes, they didn't know how well it was going to do. First in May, Thor and Captain America will join Iron Man, the Hulk, and Black Widow in Marvel's The Avengers, the first Marvel film to be marketed and distributed by Disney. The Avengers shows great promise with a record of 10 million downloads on iTunes when the trailer debuted. Again, this is absolutely dating when this earnings call was. And it is well on its way to being our next great franchise. Then in July, Sony Pictures will release The Amazing Spider-Man. We are excited about this film and expect it will drive significant benefits for Spider-Man consumer products. To that end, we recently completed a transaction with Sony Pictures to simplify our relationship. In that deal, we purchased Sony Pictures' participation in Spider-Man merchandising, while at the same time, Sony Pictures purchased from us our participation in Spider-Man films. This transaction will allow us to control and fully benefit from all Spider-Man merchandising activity, while Sony will continue to produce and distribute Spider-Man films. We won't be specific about the economics of this two-way transaction, but we expect it will drive attractive returns for Disney. So, layman's terms, Sony had to pay Marvel a little bit of money when they made a movie. There was the film participation rights. They got a little bit of money out of that one, but Sony had the merchandise rights. Sony was in a bit of a bad place in 2012. They were for many years. If you recall the $920 million write-down from 2016, and they needed quick cash. So when they were rebooting The Amazing Spider-Man, they sold the merchandising rights back to Disney in exchange for Disney giving them the film participation rights. So it was a two-way transaction. That passage I just showed you was directly from Robert Iger himself. November 2011. They went to Sony and they worked the deal, or Sony went to them and worked the deal, So Sony wouldn't have to pay Marvel any money in the anything coming off of the movie. And as a result, Disney got the merchandising. And that's where that came from. So this is not a woe is Sony situation. This is an 8-year-old two-way transaction, meaning it was mutually agreed upon for mutual benefit between both parties. Sony needed the money, Disney wanted the merch rights, they made a trade. That's all it is. And that's the deal that's been in place for 8 years. And part of that deal, I believe what came from that is one of the reasons why Amy Pascal, following you can call it a failure in Sony's eyes financially of Amazing Spider-Man 2 with $709 million worldwide compared to $757 million for The Amazing Spider-Man. But just 2 years prior, why she reached out to Kevin Feige and said, hey, let's find a way to make this work. And after that became public, they then made it work because it was a mutually beneficial situation. People have been spreading a lot of false info about this for the last couple days. Disney paid up no money. They paid no money into making Spider-Man Homecoming or Far From Home. Sony cut the check. Marvel was the producing company on it. They're the ones who led it. They're the ones who made it. Then Sony got all the money. And Marvel got its 5% off of first day dollar, which I talked about in the video yesterday when Sony did damage control. Financially, business-wise, it does make the most amount of sense for Sony to make this deal work. It does. We've seen they cannot handle these franchises on their own. They got lucky with Venom. I think we all can agree with each other on that one. And they need to find a way to keep money coming in. And if that is to extend the contract with Marvel, which has already brought them $2 billion in profit for quite literally no work, just cutting a check and doing some marketing. And Disney would come in and offer a 30% stake in these characters, and they could still continue to make all the money off of it. Think about that. Think about that for a second, right? Someone comes to you who's clearly better at their job than you are and says, we want to work with you. This is the take we want, 30%. And this is what you're going to get off of it. It's smart play. It's a smart play. Not only that, not only is it because of the financing here, but you've also got the fact that you have diminishing returns in movie theaters. You have that now. We've seen that. How many last summers have there been where you've seen so many headlines come out? This movie bombed. This movie failed. This movie flopped. We're at that point now where summer movie season is big spectacle, and it actually now travels throughout the entire year. And a lot of people don't go see smaller films because they can just wait for streaming. And eventually, smaller budgeted superhero movies or comic book adaptations are going to find their way to streaming as well, like the case of the New Mutants. That's my prediction, at least. It makes sense for Sony, who has had time and time again trouble after trouble after trouble with their franchises. They lost James Bond, by the way, after Spectre failed to gross what Skyfall did because they overspent on Spectre. They've messed up Ghostbusters to where they had to go back to the director's son to reboot the franchise once again to tie it into the original films, which comes out next year. Other than that, they don't have anything else. And I understand the desire to want to hold on to your great franchise, your last great franchise that you bought for a steal back in the late 90s. But there's going to come a time where no matter what kind of holdout they're going to want to show, Marvel will swallow them. Whether it is undercutting them by releasing higher quality products up against their films or TV shows or whatever, and just completely overspending on advertising to take away from everything they've got. And they do it through being a dick, which they might do. They do that towards DC. Or eventually people are just not going to go see these movies because Sony has shown it cannot run a Spider-Man franchise. And when you have the guy who was behind X-Men Origins Wolverines and sewing Deadpool's mouth shut and passing on Deadpool, now sitting there saying, we learned enough from Kevin Feige. We can make this work ourselves. You know that is absolutely fundamentally wrong. And if they want to save their company as a whole, they should make this deal. That's my story. I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know down in the comments below because they should be really, really, really interesting. Oh my God, finally, jeez. Whew. Okay, that was a long one. Maybe a bit preachy, I admit. I'll admit, a bit preachy. There was a phone call during that, which is why I had to stop. So I had to figure that one out. Venom, I don't know if I'd say Venom was well received here in the States. It definitely was received well enough. It's not that Disney they're smart. They're smart. They make money. Sony makes money. Everyone makes money. There's nothing, if they were like the 50-50, fine. I'll give you a little bit of greed on that one. But if 30-70 split is not that bad. It's really not that bad. They're doing all the work. Sony literally has like Feige's team of experts is going to come in and do everything. And then Sony just gives them some money and Sony gets money back. It's like a no-brainer deal. So anyway, yeah, that was fine. 15%. I'm not against that. Oh, all right. I already got a call coming in. Let's find out.
Works.
Hey, how's it going?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, how's it going?
It's going okay. Who am I speaking with?
I am I'm a streamer. I'm a big fan of yours.
I think I recognize this voice.
Do you recognize my voice?
Kind of. I think this is flamenco, if I had to guess.
No, I'm actually James Alsop. I've also heard that I sound like Mr. Medicare.
No, I don't hear that at all. But Alsop, I'm fully aware of who you are.
Are you a fan of EFAP?
No.
Oh, you're not?
I don't even know what that is.
Okay. Have you ever heard of a channel called Mahler?
I know of Mahler. I don't watch his content.
Is there a reason why you don't watch his content?
Yeah, I'm not going to sit through an hour and a half review of a movie I've already seen. I find I don't
of a movie
or a breakdown. It doesn't really matter. It's I've just never been interested in that kind of stuff. So people tell me it's good. I haven't. There's nothing there I've really seen. That
what is your take on objectivity versus subjectivity in film critique?
I think that you should clearly be more objective overall but you can never get away from the subjective mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I prefer objectivity, but then again, if you're doing more of a deep dive, I can see the subjective nature of it. It just depends whether or not I align with that subjective nature and if I want to sit through that particular viewpoint.
Is there a specific film that you subjectively like but you think is objectively bad and vice versa?
Oh, there's plenty of films that I subjectively like that are pretty terrible. Yeah.
Okay. And I gotta ask, would you be willing to go on to EFAP? I think they're big fans of your work.
No, they're not big. I know they're not fans of my work at all. I have no real desire to know. I mean,
yeah, but they've gotten a very deep grasp of your work. They've consumed a lot of your content.
Oh, I'm sure they have. I don't doubt that for a second. A lot of people actually watch me, but I don't have a desire to go on there. Nah, because it's not necessarily the type of environment that I feel would be the most conducive to anything. So no, I'm good.
Are you very happy that Dame Pesos didn't get his channel ticket away?
I heard something about some things. I don't know what the hell's going on with any of it. I'm really just trying to move the fuck on.
Are you glad that he didn't get his channel struck though?
His channel, from what I saw, was community guideline stuff that was overturned because I was tweeted at today about that. And yeah, that's good. Fine. That's cool. I don't care. I don't watch him. I don't engage. I don't give a shit. So anyway, I'm going to move on. Thank you very much for calling in.
By the way, Matt, I have one last question. Are we cool?
Yes, that question gets asked quite a bit. I'm
not too. Does.
I'm sure it does. Yeah. But well, no, because it's coming off of a particular conversation that there's only one half of that's been discussed. The other half hasn't been discussed, which is pretty funny in my opinion.
Oh, I would love to hear that side. I would love to hear
the only thing I'll say about it is this: the person in question, who I was asking that to, about 5 minutes prior, was whining to me about
Mm,
people saying untrue things about him on the internet.
mm.
So,
I'm gonna guess that that person is probably talking about a person who constantly defames him and tries to ruin his financial situation.
um, yeah, but he didn't specifically state that person completely. Even though I knew we were having a conversation about that at the time, and I just looked at him point blank and said, "Yeah, I know it's like people to make up on things, untrue things about you on the internet." So there we go. That's about it. So it was
I got
it was a nice moment between
I
two
got one other
people.
question. I haven't actually consumed a whole lot of your content. What was your overall take on the Last Jedi?
Oh, it was pretty terrible.
Okay, as long as you're not one of those people that made up shit about it being a work of brilliance. I don't know if you.
No,
I
why
mean,
would I rag on that movie all the time. I could go.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
no.
It just seems that there's like a lot of I don't know, people liken a lot of your work to a certain other rotund individual whose name is Robert, I believe, and he wrote just a he did an awful video on it just recently. It's
Oh
terrible.
no, no, you're talking about Movie Bob.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. I spent so many years working for movie theaters and watching so many terrible films and so many good movies that I've also worked in Hollywood and I've worked on movies and I think that gives me a different perspective.
Mm.
So I can look at movies and go, yeah, that might have been bad, but then I try to look for the good. As I go into most films, it's always looking for the good and not and I always try to be entertained. When it came to The
Hmm.
Last Jedi, I have given the director praise for I thought it was directed well, but the story was garbage. And at the end of the day, we're we can look at all the pretty pictures in the world, but if it's not telling us anything good, who cares?
Can you do me one more favor? Can you give a shout out to the Bi Curious boys and say
N-
BCBRU?
no, I'm good, man. Well, thank you so much
Oh,
for
come
calling
on.
in,
The
and
Bi Curious
I will
boys
talk.
love
I'll
you.
talk to you later. All right. So there's. Anyway, I've worked on Kevin. I've worked on a bunch of smaller films. I did like a bunch of audio work in LA for some. I did like this Doritos commercial. It's like one of those. Put me in the back of like a 19th. Like when I say the back, I mean like legitimately. No, hold on. Hello.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing, dude?
Doing all right. I'm doing all right. Just diving into tonight's work. It's always fun. Even when people are trying to troll, it's always kind of fun having conversations about movies.
Yeah, real quick about that guy. I like he says one last question, and then he goes, "I have another question."
Yeah.
And let me get
Well,
another
yeah. He's
question.
gonna. Yeah. It's all just trying to keep on the line as long as humanly possible.
Yeah, I feel you. But away from that, there was one like I guess I have some grievances over like what's been happening these past few days.
I think a lot of people have grievances, dude. I think a lot of people are just like, oh my god, this whole situation is terrible, and it really is terrible.
Like it is, but I'm like I've realized like from this came to me while I was watching I was watching the show right now, and then you show like all these movements that these people have been doing to get we're gonna storm Sony, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do all this, and I'm just like it's I feel like it's a waste. Like
Yeah, a
all these
lot of it is a
people
waste.
yeah, organizing all this for something that's so little. Like first of all, Spider-Man. Okay, this is gonna be crazy. The Spider-Man isn't real. It's not a real person, and
Well,
so
actually, I think I said that right. I think I said that. Like, he's not real. He's not a real person. It's not like a real
it,
situation.
it was a man who was drawn on paper like years ago. That's what he was. And I'm just like, and I'm just like, oh, it feels like a waste because all of this energy, all of this everything that all these fans are organizing, like you could do this if people just had the same enthusiasm for doing like anything else, it would be amazing. Like, say for example, like, do you know about like the recent fires in the Amazon rainforest?
Yeah, I heard about that today. That's god awful. Not only there too, but there's a bunch of other fires. that have been
Yeah, and
happening.
a bunch of other fires that has been going on for apparently it's been going on for 3 weeks, but nobody's been talking about it. That's the thing, and there's a hashtag that's starting. I forget the name of the hashtag for to raise awareness over these Amazon fires. But compared to like the bring back Spidey to the MCU, it's not even like on the same level. So I'm just like, this is a real problem. This is something that's going to affect not people in Brazil, but the entire world negatively. But we rather just support one corporation because they don't have a character that we all like. And I don't know. It seems to me that just got me depressed. Like honestly, depressed for a few minutes before I was like, it's the internet. They'll do whatever. But I don't know. Our fans are they just going too far? Like too far, wasting their time on shit that's like menial to like what's going on with this world. Like
You
almost got
know,
lost of focus.
well, I think like, people can only really focus on a couple things. I think like 11 things at one time or something, like just having their general purview. So anyone who follows like entertainment news, entertainment media, things along those lines, that's what they're going to see. They're going to see everyone talking about this. And a lot of people, because I mean, look at Endgame, 2.795 billion. People have an emotional connection to that movie, to those characters, and at the end of, remember like one of the great memes in the last couple of years was like, I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark, right? Or, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. And everyone's like, no, like, oh my God, fucking Spider-Man. And then, but everyone knew he wasn't going to be dead.
Mm-hmm.
So, but still there was an emotional connection. And then when you watch Endgame and Tony's like looking at that picture of Peter and he just goes like, oh man, like that's what prompts him to go and do it, to go to save the kid. There's an emotional connection there. And then to have that particular thing torn away, I kind of liken it to when you get really invested into a TV show. And they leave it on a cliffhanger. You're 3 seasons in, 4 seasons in. There's this massive, great cliffhanger. You want to know how it's going to end. You got to wait till the next season to find out. You wake up the next morning and there's an article saying this show has been canceled, right? And you're like, whoa, what the fuck? What the shit? And like all that crap, right? All that crap happens. And you're just like, I don't fucking get it. My God damn it. What the fuck? And so what happens is, and studies have shown this, where you have these emotional connections to these characters. You perceive them as being real. So when they're gone, whether they die or the show is canceled or whatever, you actually feel and experience loss, right? So when that happens, people end up really just like feeling it and they emotionally react. So when you find out that Spider-Man is no longer part of the MCU, you emotionally react, and it's a real emotion. So that's why people care about that. Now, when it comes to the fires in Brazil, as bad as that is, the biggest issue ultimately boils down to the fact that it's not directly in front of somebody. It's not directly in front of any. It's bad for Brazil. And you can look on the TV and see a live satellite image of it burning, but you're still looking at it on a TV or a phone screen or a television screen, whatever. You're not there in person. It's not impacting you directly. It might have long-term ramifications, but it doesn't impact you directly.
Definitely will, yeah.
So that's really what it boils down to here: is people they just don't they don't have that, and so maybe it takes a little bit of time to get to that point. I think when it comes to climate change in many aspects, people just kind of need to be beat over the head with it. But when it comes to a character in a movie, it's a lot more instant gratification. It's a lot more instant sensation. We're a very instant gratification society, and it's something you can bitch about right now that you might be able to have some kind of random impact on. Maybe if you're loud enough on Twitter, Tom Rothman from Sony will go, you know what? I've been a cuck, and I'm not going to do that anymore. And it's probably not going to happen, but people believe it. And people want to go, as I showed, they want to go to these places and they want to protest outside with their photos and their banners because they have an emotional connection and they want to see it treated properly. So that's really what it boils down to, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, no, I feel you. And I do agree with you with some aspects. Like, I'm guessing it's more or less about priorities, like our own like priorities that we have. Like within our, like, I guess since all of us, we all have a bunch of shit going on with our time. We all have our own problems. So like, I'm guessing like Spider-Man, all these movies are like our escape. And if our escape is suddenly threatened by something, we're going to take that even harder than like an actual tragedy that's probably going on. Because that's like you said, we have a deeper emotional connection. Like, because, well, here's the thing, like Spider-Man, all this stuff, like what you said, where it's like, oh, it's happening on the screen, it's not happening here. But like, yeah, Spider-Man, like leaving one corporation for another. Let's be real, like it's not set in stone that Spider-Man's completely out. It doesn't look good. It very much doesn't look good. Matter of fact, it looks terrible for Spider-Man. But it's just something that people just need to realize. This is how most business negotiations work. Like a back and forth. And the fact that this went public is like, I remember like, what was her name? Oh, Grace Randolph talking about stuff like this, where it's more or less just tactics used by one of the corporations. In this case, I'm thinking is Disney, saying like, oh, see, Sony is taking Spider-Man. Get angry at them. Show them to go with our way, or something. That's what I was thinking. And well, yeah, people are going to get the reaction because that's exactly like I said. Their escape is threatened. Like when we're all done with our work, school, anything, any problems we have, we come home and guess what? We have Spider-Man here to help us out.
Yeah.
And so if something bad happens to him, then shit, it's almost like, dude, you just took away my dad or something. Bring him back. I need him, or something like that. Which I do understand. I really do. But I'm just like, there's just so many real problems. Like I'm not trying to turn this into like a thing about. I'll be like, all of you.
It's like an afternoon, like a Lifetime afternoon special, some shit like that, or after school special.
I'm not trying to turn this into after that, but just like just realize this. Some things are more important than others. Like
that's very true. That's very true. I mean, I think when it comes to it, I mean, I love this stuff. It's great escapism, totally. It's a lot of fun, and to a lot of people, it's something that it means a lot to them as well, and that ultimately is where, I think this is also a big part of, like I said, we've been conditioned to feel this way. We've been conditioned to feel loss, and maybe it's just this weird societal shift where people just finally said, now with social media, it's not just me bitching to my friends privately. I can bitch to the world, and maybe someone will hear me, and if somebody hears me, then that's fantastic, but we don't know. We just don't know, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. I'm hoping that they make a deal. I mean, D23 is in a couple days. I think they're actively negotiating. The fact that Disney hasn't said anything yet, the fact that they really haven't issued a statement, says to me that they are actively negotiating, because it's good for them. It's good for Sony. Hell, it's better for Sony in the long run. It's way better for Sony in the long run. So that is that's the way that I see it. But all right, man. Well, hey, I'll let you I'll let you go. I had a couple other people try to call on in. And we'll definitely talk again soon.
Hey, man, have a good one, dude.
Yeah, you too. Thanks a lot, bro. Have a good night. All right. Yeah. Let's see here. I was looking at some of the comments here. All right. I was answering a question about what I had worked on. I had worked on some short films, some feature films. I wrote and directed a movie that was pretty bad, and everything else. All right. We got one here. Hello.
Hey, Matt. I want to bring some opposition to your points, because I feel like it's. I do get what you're coming from. I get you love the Spider-Man universe. I want to say I really hate Sony. I really, really, really hate Sony after what they did to Michael Jackson over his music.
Yeah.
And some of the scummy stuff they've done with the PlayStation and their exclusives and buying out early access to games. I really don't like Sony. So it really hurts me when I have to defend Sony. To put it in perspective, it's like if you had to defend Donald Trump. You don't want to do it because you really don't like the man. That's kind of the boat I'm in.
Okay, I get you. I feel you.
The point I'm making is Sony eats the production cost. They put the money in. Marvel gets full merchandise
rights.
Okay, thank you. And so already Disney is in the plus because not only do they get all that money from all the toys and the collectibles they're going to make, but they're also getting a nice little pay cut from the movie itself. And this is
now,
where
you're talking the current deal, or what could be considered the new
current
deal?
Okay. The current deal.
Okay.
The 5%.
But well, the 5% first dollar, 5% first day is what it is, right? So it's not like 5% of 1.1 billion. It's 5% of like 92 million or something like that.
Well, let's. I'll compromise. Maybe like instead of it being first day, it should be total movie revenue.
I mean, that's, okay, I get your point. Let me ask you this though. Do you know what goes into making a movie?
Oh yeah, you got the production cost, actors cost,
and they pay Marvel
marketing.
They handle marketing. Sony handles marketing, but when it comes to like everything about it, finding the director, writing the script, getting the cast. I know Sony wanted Tom Holland, and that was a good call. They're not all full of bad ideas. They just don't know how to oversee something. That's the biggest issue here. That's what I was getting to in that video.
They don't know the long game. They know the short game.
Yeah. And that's screwed them multiple times now at this point. So what it is ultimately like Disney's like, look, we want to come on in, and this is our proposal. We don't want to buy you because we just bought Fox, but we want to work with you. And they're proven to make money. It's going to continue making money. They've got insane brand loyalty. It's going to continue making cash. And a lot of people like yourself go, ugh, Sony. And that's not like an unknown sentiment, whether it's games, movies, or music. Sony is not a well-liked company. People love the character of Spider-Man. People want Spider-Man home with Marvel where it belongs, where he belongs. Mm-hmm. And that's what it boils down to. So here's Marvel. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Which I get. I just think that people, when they're trying to argue it's Sony's the root of all evil, which Sony is the root of all evil, just not in this situation, is that they're trying to argue it from an emotional side and not seeing Sony's side towards the business side of it. And that's where my issue is with a lot of people that are trying to be like, screw Sony, I'm boycotting Sony, which that ain't never going to happen. People are never going to stop buying PlayStation products or Sony music. It's never going to happen. I will believe it when I see somebody go and chuck their PlayStation in the trash and light it on fire. That's when I will believe they're actually boycotting Sony.
Well, there were people that did that back when PSN went down for a month because it was hacked by, I think it was like Lizard Squad or something.
Yeah.
So there's a lot, people hate Sony for a number of reasons, and there's never going to be not a good reason to hate them for something. There's a good reason to hate Disney for a lot of things. But what we're talking about here is the standard of running a company, running a studio, consistent failures in running a studio. I mean, look at Disney and talking about Fox when they said, "Oh, our third quarter profits are down."
I don't disagree with you on the point that Disney's gone good and Sony's had hits, and they're like shotgun blasts. They sometimes hit, they sometimes don't.
Yeah.
It's it.
Well,
let me agree with you on that.
Let me ask you this, and let me kind of put it to you then more maybe just in a direct way. If it were you, and you were the person in charge of a massive studio, and your profits have not been as good as they once were, Men in Black International crashed and burned. It did. I mean, they've had a couple other films that have not done very well. And, you're in the situation where you want to hold on to your biggest franchise because you bought it for what, like $7 million back in like 1999?
It was like 16, 18 or no. It's,
okay. I thought I read 7 million. Yeah, I could be wrong, but like I read that. I don't know. Someone said 7 million.
Yeah, but considering 22 million and now like it's selling in the billions.
It's you want to keep it. I get that because they have all those other characters as well, and I think it really does boil down to this. I think I would, if I were a person responsible for everybody else, and even the shareholders, because that's really what it was. Not even the companies, not even the fucking employees. I don't give a shit. It's the shareholders.
Yeah.
The shareholders want a return, and the shareholders don't get a return. Your ass gets outed. And the reason why Tom Rothman had a renewed contract is because Spider-Man: Homecoming did well. It and Jumanji were the two bigger earners in 2017 for Sony. Those two movies, that was it. Right? Like that was it. I think, you know, like they had, I think, a profit of like 190 million or something. That was their big thing.
So I will say this though, for Sony, when it comes to their movies, the only like good franchise they've ever done good on is Spider-Man. So I can get why they're a little extra protective on them.
But even that they fucked up though. So go back to Spider-Man. Go back to 2002. We had Spider-Man.
Spider-Man 3.
Right? But why did Spider-Man 3 suck? But why did it suck? It sucked because they went to after the success of Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2, where I think like even people were saying like Spider-Man 2 should be up for Best Picture and shit, you know, because it's that good of a fucking movie. They went to the brass, you know, looked at what the fans wanted, and the fans are going like, we want Venom. And they went to Raimi and they said, all right, man, you know, for the next movie, why don't you do Venom? And he's like, he didn't like Venom. He never liked Venom, but it was a studio edict that he put Venom in the movie. So what did he do? He shoehorned in this Venom story on top of having a decent Green Goblin story. I liked you know, Harry Osborn's story.
I think Venom wasn't that bad. It's just the way that Toby played, like when he was the Venom part, like the alter, like the,
I liked it. I liked it. I'll admit.
Most Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It was just so like cringy. It was like, oh no.
Yeah. It was, well, see, I personally enjoyed that. Like I thought it was really funny because it's so hard to showcase like it was, again, they if they should have done it as a two-parter. Spider-Man 3 should have been versus, you know, Sandman and everything. Actually, no, they should have saved Sandman and Green Goblin for number 4, to be honest with you, because of the whole themes about redemption, right? Revenge and redemption playing a big part in that movie. Again, like the Perman in the chat says, they tried to cram too much, and they did. They really tried to cram too much into.
It's like what they did with how they screwed up their air quotes DC universe. You know, like the DCU. They tried getting that Marvel stuff way too
much
fast,
too quick.
And people were like, "Screw you!" It's the same reason why Batman versus Superman like horribly failed, because it was like 4 movies happening at the same time.
Well, they also cut out 30 minutes of exposition, to be fair. So if you watch the extended cut, it's like, oh, this now makes a lot more sense. So a lot of people like it as a result of that. But what I'm trying to say here is that Sony did that with Amazing Spider-Man 2. So they go, okay, we had a hit, right? $757 million in 2012, far cry from Avengers $1.5 billion, right? But you know, and then they did their cash. And they go, okay, so for the sequel, let's start opening it up. Because at this point, they see that the Marvel method worked. They see that the team up movie worked, that the spin-off movies can work. So they start going, what do we have? And so they go and they do Amazing Spider-Man 2. They introduce Green Goblin. Dane DeHaan did a really weird job as Harry Osborn, right? Like that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
At the same time, they also introduced Felicity Jones as Felicia. I don't know if you ever caught that little bit. She was Harry's assistant. So it's like, oh, I'm watching the movie. I'm like, Felicia. There's only one goddamn Felicia in Spider-Man. That's got to be Hardy. And it was actually her. They even have the Amazing Spider-Man 2 Blu-ray or whatever has a little like Easter eggs bit, and like that was in there. And so then they go, okay, but we're also going to do Sinister Six. And then I think it was before the release of Amazing Spider-Man 2, like, you know, they're leading into Sinister Six. They hired Drew Goddard to write and direct the movie. They start, you know, working their way towards building this up. And the movie makes less money than its predecessor, and it's reviewed a little bit better in some aspects of it, but ultimately it was seen as a letdown for Sony. And then that prompted them to go, well, we need to figure out a way to make this work. Why don't we then go to Marvel? And they went to Marvel, and the deal fell through. Because remember, people don't remember this. The deal originally fell through. The talks in 2014 fell through. And it wasn't until the Sony leak.
You actually had a video on it talking about it.
I think on the other channel I talked about it. Yeah, on the main channel. Yeah, wow. Yeah, you've watched for a while. Holy shit, thank you. You know,
man.
That's a long time ago. God damn. But shit, 5 years now. But anyway, I'm old. But yeah, they
don't worry,
leaked that
internet years. You feel like you're 40 when you're really like, you know, not.
Well, I turned 40 in a couple of years, so yeah, I'm getting closer. Uh, but anyway, the whole idea here essentially is that you've got the talks failed, and then the leak happened, and that email went out, and people then all of a sudden were like, wait, this is an option, this is a possibility. And then I even said back then, I'm like, this is going to happen because they're going to have no choice. The fans are going to demand it. And then the fans demanded it, and they made it work. And guess what? Everyone was happy, and everyone's making money. But that 5 years has come up now, or almost the 4 years since the deal was made.
I still think though that out of the three Spider-Mans that we've had, four, including excluding the Spider-Verse multiverse movie, cartoon movie they made recently, excluding that, I still think that Tom Harlan's the worst.
You really not a. I think that Andrew Garfield is the best comic representation of Peter Parker.
I think he's best comic. See, the reason why I rank him as the worst is because the first one was Tobey Maguire, and he just set the gold standard for like how Spider-Man should be. Then 2 was the best comic book representation. Like Tobey did the best movie, Andrew did the best comic book, and then Tom kind of like he needs this, like he's good, but he needs Avengers to be good. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's not very good on his own. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying?
I think he's just fine on his own. I really think he is playing up the teenager Peter Parker, the one who's trying to come to terms and grips with his own abilities, the one who, we kind of saw, like, if you think about it, Iron Man became like Uncle Ben kind of, and we get a bit more of him, and we get to see a different side of him that's a bit more human. And I think at the end of the day, people want these human stories and these characters. And that's kind of why I think, again, when I talk about, like, let's say Man of Steel, and I say Man of Steel was one of my top 5 films in 2013, because it humanized Superman. And again, in like the Batman v Superman, which they're talking about in the chat right now, there was a part that was cut out of the theatrical that was added into the Ultimate, where, the whole world is coming down on Supes. They think he killed all these people, and they're trying to regulate him, and the government, and he just wants to help people. That's right. All he does. So he just gets to this point where he just calls his mom and like goes, "What should I do?" And to me, that was such a significant, important moment, because I looked at it and I went, like, this is the most human representation of Clark we've seen. And that's the whole point. He's always faking as a human, but he's now gaining what those emotions are. And he just calls his mom. And I think it's a great little scene, because that relationship is something that's, I think, very key to his character. And she keeps him grounded. She's like, you could just leave. Like, who cares what they say? They can't stop you, But like, she's being his mom, and she's still gonna.
Unless they magically get kryptonite bullets.
Well, Batman would have them. So, like, true. Batman would have them at this point. So that's kind of the whole thing. Anyway, man, I try to keep the calls about 15 minutes, so we've gone on about that long. But hey, I really appreciate you calling in.
All right, can I just say one more thing real quick?
Yeah.
The point the last guy made about, like, worrying about real-world stuff, I think the reason why people care about this versus more about the thing is not only just the escapism, but you can't really affect a wildfire in another country when the country has to get it done. You can affect this.
Yeah, I think it's also, I mean, I don't know. I just kind of feel like the older I get, the more I like to pay attention to real world situations. Just to be wary of what's happening, because I think if we don't know, then we can't. Again, it's kind of like if no one talked about the Sony deal, we would never know about it. We could never complain about it, right?
Exactly.
So it's good to know this stuff, even if it's.
Which, another thing on that, real quick, I do think someone at Disney leaked it just to get
No, it was Sony. It was Sony who leaked it. It was if you watch Midnight's Edge talked about it today. And the guy who wrote the Deadline article is a Deadline reporter who Disney or Sony has gone through before. They've leaked scoops to him before. Yeah. Oh no, Sony. Oh yes, no. Marvel would not have come out.
Talk about Disney, like shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah. There's literally no way that particular story didn't come out of Sony, because Sony wanted to paint themselves as the victim, and that's what they wanted. They wanted to paint themselves as the victim.
They they just Kurt Cobain themselves.
Kinda, in my opinion, yeah. Because I think it wasn't met with the right thing, and now they're kind of screwed, which is why they put out that statement like, no, they're taking Kevin Feige away from us, right? If the whole deal boiled down to money, they didn't talk about the money. They talked about Kevin Feige.
I do think that 5% is too little. I'll give them that, but I do think that 30% is a little too much. Maybe like 15, 20, like.
Well, and they are, but I'm pretty sure the number's going to come down. Because there was that again, the story is like, oh no, but Tom Rothman came back with more compromises, and Disney's playing a little hardball, and then they kind of pulled the rug out, and now no one really looks in a good light, by the way. I just want to make that clear, abundantly clear. As much as I am in the corner of Disney on this from a storytelling and business perspective, no one looks good. Everyone's got shit on their dick. They
both look like little crybabies. Right?
Yeah, and so that's the whole thing. It's like, unlike before, it was a deal that fell through, and then we got wind of it from a leak that happened, and as a result of Amy Pascal losing her job, because she did, she brokered that deal on her way out the door and put herself in a good position. The fact that Pascal hasn't said anything about this when she is still the producing partner at Sony working on this, means that she's the one right now trying to broker the deal behind the scenes. Guaranteed. If we see that Amy Pascal's anywhere near Anaheim this weekend, the deal's on 100%.
Alrighty. Well, thank you, Matt. I just wanted to give you, because I don't think anybody was really challenging you on it yet.
No, challenge me. Challenge me. It's all good. I like it.
I wanted to give the devil's advocate to the argument.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And keep up the good work, and I'll always be here, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I am too addicted to not, so it's going to keep happening.
Okay.
Yeah, probably. I'm going to upload my consciousness to fucking YouTube and then just make videos from beyond the grave. Is this what's going to happen? All right, man. I'll talk to you later. Have yourself a good one.
You too, man. Bye.
Bye. Okay, that was a good call. I like the challenging. That was pretty good. I appreciate the discussion. So we'll be on for maybe another half hour. If anyone else wants to shoot a call on in, or you guys can always come over to the Discord. There is a link in the video description. Jump into, I believe, either the general or waiting chat. Probably general is fine. I could, we got actually we have one in there right now. So let me just bring that up. All right. Hey, Denzel, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
How's it going, man?
Sure.
Okay.
I was watching Gracie's about it. She spoke about how Marvel, or actually Disney, the Sony deal, because they have theme parks that are planning to actually make that are connected to the MCU Spider-Man. What do you think about that?
I mean, I don't know who has the theme park rights for Spider-Man. If Sony just has the film rights, then I don't think that they can really chime in on that. But what that is though is that they want the Tom Holland. They want the Tom Holland Spider-Man there. And if they don't have rights to that particular design, because that's the MCU design, it's literally built specifically for these films, and that's it. But if they can use it in theme parks, then they'll be able to make more money. And that's what I think she's talking about. Because if I recall, I've gone to Disneyland. I think I'm pretty sure they have Marvel characters walking around, right? Do they have? I don't know.
Universal, I think, does have Spider-Man rights there.
Let's see. I know
that
okay.
It's only the restricted to using the comic book versions.
Yeah. Let's see. According to Disney, I can go and meet classical meet and greet people. Let's see. Hold on. Okay, I don't understand how this works. They have a bunch of cast members that hang out. I'm just looking to see if there's any Marvel people around. There they go. Okay. Meet and greet Hollywoodland in let's see. I have something. Okay. Oh yeah, there we go. Let's see. Okay, Hollywood Stage 7, Black Panther, Black Widow. Spider-Man is near Sunset Boulevard. So yeah, it's comic book Spider-Man. Although the picture they use looks a lot like looks an awful lot like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, which could be part of the deal. I have no idea, but yeah, so they can have him. They can have him at the park. That's not a problem.
So you don't think that them leaving MCU Spider-Man leaving, that you don't think it would actually mean that they cannot use the Tom Holland version?
Yeah, that's what and I think that's what it really boils down to, is really what people are wanting to see, because it's the $1 billion character. That's what people want to see, and that's what Disney's going to provide. So yeah, I think that's what it boils down to. Is that's probably what Grace means. I haven't watched. No, I did watch a video on it today. I just unfortunately had to feed a crying baby during it, so I think I might have missed all of what she was saying.
Oh yeah, yeah. I keep hearing people talk about how it's actually helped like revive Spider-Man, but don't you think that the fact that he's already been in the MCU is gonna like carry him in the future, even if he leaves? People are gonna be like, "Oh, he was already in the MCU. He's gonna use that momentum to continue."
I don't know. I don't know if they're going to do any of that. Really, it's if they remove Spider-Man from the MCU, they're going to keep Spider-Man in the park because he's already there. They're just going to have to go back to the original costume, where they're just not going to be able to ever really mention it in like Stark Industries. So because I think they're going to call the Marvel Land Stark Industries because they don't have the rights to it directly. That's Universal has that.
No. What I meant is that Sony, like, you know that obviously because of the MCU.
You broke up there. You broke up there a little bit. What were you saying?
I know that the Spider-Man, the MCU Spider-Man, actually reached 1 billion because of the MCU. But don't you think that future Spider-Mans can actually use the momentum that has already been built?
No, no, I don't think so. I think I mean, this could just be me being a cynical, my ego is not wanting to be challenged bastard, and I'll admit that. But I think there's enough. You can't come off of the highest grossing movie of all time and then have, and Spider-Man's it's small but integral part. And you can't really have that. And then his movie going on to do 1.1 billion a couple months later, and then go, well, we're pulling him out, and have it not have long lasting repercussions. I believe, and I'm more than willing to be proven wrong. But I do think that ultimately what we're going to see here is even Venom getting hit. I think Venom 2, if it's, it's gonna, if they go, oh, we're gonna put Tom Holland as Spider-Man in Venom 2, the audiences aren't stupid. The audiences are gonna go, that's not my Spider-Man. That's not, because there's gonna be no mention of Iron Man, no mention of the decimation, no mention of anything previously that had happened. No Aunt May and Happy Hogan. Well, Aunt May, but no Happy Hogan. Spider-Man won't be able to use his Stark suit because that was created for this. And he won't be able to use the Iron Spider suit. He'll go back to, he'll have to make a new suit. So they might as well just recast him. And even Tom Holland himself was like, they asked him when Venom came out, how would you feel about being in a Venom 2? And he's like, that would be great. But they got to put it in the MCU because I don't want to give up my ticket. So, so that's the thing. That's what I think. Dis 2007 says, I think he's like, Venom 2 is going to die hard in the box office. And even Nate here says, I don't think I'm interested in a non-MCU Spidey.
Like Venom, the first Venom was good, so you would expect the sequel to suffer because of the first one.
Because the first movie, the first movie was better than expected. I will say that. I
did enjoy it myself. I did enjoy it, even though I know many people did not actually like it, but could enjoy such a movie. At least I could say, if there's such a divide, you could say then the sequel should actually suffer anyways, regardless of whether they leave the MCU or stay in the MCU.
Well, because then that asks the question, did Venom do as well as it did? Maybe not in China, but in other parts of the world, without it being part of the MCU, like because there was always there was that talk. Amy Pascal was like, these movies are all interconnected. They're all gonna be part of the same thing, and because clearly that was on the subject of conversation. Clearly, Pascal and Kevin Feige had the conversation to put Spider-Man and all the other characters in the MCU. And I think Venom was a bit of a test. And the fact that Venom overperformed, I don't know if they can replicate it. It's like everyone making a big deal about Andy Serkis directing Venom 2. Dude, I love Andy Serkis, but I wouldn't go see Venom 2 because he's directing it. I wouldn't. I have no, to me, that doesn't matter. I don't look at him as being a director. I don't think the average person who knows who he is going to go, wow, I want to see a movie directed by him. They're like, I want to see him play Gollum, or I want to see him play King Kong, or I want to see him play Caesar from Planet of the Apes. I want him in a mocap suit. I don't want him. I want him in a mocap suit, because that's what most people know him as.
An actor, he has a much better pool, because I was really shocked when they killed him in Black Panther. I was like, wait.
Yeah, I was bummed at that too.
That's actually a very powerful pool, and he just like lost it just like that.
Yeah, I liked. I was really bummed when they killed off Ulysses Claw. Like, I get why it makes sense for the character. I get that, but at the same time, I was just like, no. He was good. He was really solid. He had a lot of fun with it. And they got rid of him, and then there was just one Tolkien white guy. So there's that.
But I actually do think you are right. They do have a point, both sides. Because from Disney's point of view, you're looking at the fact that Spider-Man is now a $1 billion movie. What if in the future it actually ends up using you and becomes other individual solo movies? Then Sony later on decides that, you know what, we are now bigger than most of your movies, and you want to leave.
Oh, you mean like
So
they do the?
So sort of like now Sony may have needed them, but what if in the future Spider-Man becomes so big because of the MCU that Sony thinks now, okay, now we can leave you. You're no longer actually needed.
No, the thing is, that's not going to happen, right? That's not going to happen. Like I said, the MCU has massive loyalty, right? Well, no, hold on. So okay, go ahead.
What I mean is that you're looking at probably like the most popular character from the comics, right? And you're looking at the fact that, okay, I do know recently a lot of Marvel movies, a lot of MCU movies have reached $1 billion, but big MCU Spider-Man are much more profitable than most of the other Marvel movies. So let's look at it from Bob Iger's point of view. You're having within the MCU, and they could end up growing and to a point where only ends up getting funny ideas,
I'm having trouble kind of understanding you a bit, and it's probably just the language barrier. I'm trying to figure out, like, are you saying like they use Spider-Man in the MCU for so long, he gets so popular that they end up just saying, screw it, we don't need you anymore, and then they go do their own thing? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because they're using the momentum that Feige has been using.
Well, they're already doing that, but they already said that. That was the whole thing. That was part of that other statement that came out. Basically like, well, we don't need you anymore. We learned enough from Kevin Feige. We know how to manage this on our own. That's what they were saying. And that's why I wanted to that's why I don't know if you got that whole segment. I know it was a bit long, but I was saying they've said this, and it's like, let's look at the financial returns and the critical scores of these movies and what they've broken down. And you look at it and you go, well, no, you didn't learn, because this dude has been on a roll since 2008 with 23 fucking movies and 22 billion in profit. So, and it's like the Spider-Man movies haven't done that. Only one of them has cracked $1 billion. You're telling me Spider-Man, who is like the most popular comic book character, could not, only one movie could crack $1 billion? If they were, that's the whole thing.
But if you adjust for inflation, though.
That doesn't always, I don't know. You can't always. You have to look at it at the time when it came out, and it did well. Like Spider-Man 2 was like the highest grossing opening weekend of all time for a couple of years, 112 million, I think. Back in May 2002. And I remember working the movie theater that weekend when that thing opened. It was insane. Everyone wanted to see it. We all loved it. We all watched that movie multiple times. All the people I worked with, and it was great stuff. So, but then they did the second one.
It's sort of like Sony right now doesn't think that they need Disney, but now that is quite possible in the future that they might not need Disney.
Yeah. No, they need Disney. They absolutely need Disney. That's the whole point. Wonder Ducks here says Sony will make Spider-Man garbage again. And the thing is, yeah, it's that. And they need it in order to keep it going. Because if they don't make the movies, if the movies start losing so much money and they don't make the movies, the rights revert back to Marvel. That's the whole thing. That's why Daredevil left 20th Century Fox and went back to Marvel, because there was like a 7-year option on it or something. They made the 2003 movie. They chose to not do a sequel, and they let the rights revert. Same with things. Sony had the rights to Ghost Rider, did Ghost Rider 1, Ghost Rider 2, realized it wasn't worth it, and they let the rights revert back to Marvel. And so all Marvel has to do is just come on in and undercut Sony at every fucking step, and they can do it, and they would win over time. It would be a slow, like death by 1,000 cuts sort of thing, where Sony would have no choice ultimately but to either work with them or to sell it to them for fucking pennies on the dollar. What I'm saying is that Sony, in the long run, needs to take this deal. If they can negotiate it down to 20 or 25%, right? Maybe I saw 15%, whatever. If they can negotiate it down, they'll be able to make a long-term revenue off a property that they may not make as much money, but they're not going to be undercut by the competition. The competition wants to fold them in and help them make more money by making better movies and not fucking up the franchise. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So from an absolute business perspective, it makes every sense in the world to join up with Marvel. Now, it sounds like fucking world domination shit, and I get that. But the movie industry is changing. The movie industry is changing. And it's got to be spectacle and experience. And we've seen that now for years. And that's not changing. That's not going to go away. So it's either adapt or die. Sony on their own cannot do anything. We've seen this. So with multiple franchises, they don't know. And that's the whole problem. Anyway, I got someone else in the Discord. I'm going to bring them in. So, but hey,
wait. Outside of the business perspective, what about the dignity of the company, though?
Business is business. That's what it boils down to. Business is business. No, really. The dignity of the company. If the dignity of the company existed, then you would see, James Gunn would not be rehired by Disney. If they cared, it's not that they lowered their dignity to rehire him, but I mean, it's like if they kept to the idea of this being a wholesome company,
if those of us who know Disney know there's no wholesomeness there.
Exactly. And the same with Sony and all these other companies. They're in it to make money. That's what they're about. We fight over the particulars. They fight over the ones and zeros. That's what it is. And that's all it is. So, quit being a moron, not you, but them, and get in there and fucking make your money while you can. Because you're kind of putting your company at risk. I know Echo Based Network here says Sony will be fine without the MCU. You know what? Maybe, but Spider-Man won't. Disney's not greedy as fuck. I've explained that, dude.
I think you make a very good point, because I actually do think Spider-Verse is a very good movie, but the fact that
it's a great movie. It's a great movie.
They can't market for shit, man.
They put a Spider-Man animated movie up against fucking Aquaman, and Aquaman grossed 1.3 billion or 1.1 billion.
Because I think if there was a Disney movie, 1 billion was actually pretty much reachable.
Yeah. Yeah. You're telling me that Into the Spider-Verse, which is one best animated, and it's worth it. It's a good movie. It's a great film. You know, I mean, that's what's emboldening them. We could go and win awards. Okay, sure. You know, I don't know what the Into the Spider-Verse, you know, let me take a quick look, because I do want to move on to somebody else, because it's not that I'm not appreciative of the conversation. I am. It's just other people are waiting. Okay, let's see here. DVD sales, because I want to look up Into the Spider-Verse sales. According to the numbers.com. Apparently, Spider-Verse has only sold $46 million in home video sales from what we know. This only looks at what was sent or what was sold, but we don't know digital. And it's like, you know, is it the 4K edition? Is it the Blu-ray edition? You know, I don't know what those numbers look at, but apparently, yeah, it's sold, it's made money on home video. You know, so there's that. It's not because it's on Netflix. Oh my God. It didn't start on Netflix. Anyway. All right, man. Yeah, I'm going to grab someone else. So thank you very much. And we'll definitely talk again soon. All right. I'm bringing in Shidoko, who's been patiently waiting. And then if anyone else wants to jump into the Discord, get into the waiting room, you can do that. Link is in the video description. Or we'll be on for like maybe another few after this. Let's see. We've been on for about an hour and a half, so we can do some more calls. People want to call in, or just do chat here. It's all good too. So I think Shidoko stepped away for a minute, but no, there he is. Hey, what's up, man? What's on your mind?
Oh, what's up? I was actually going to talk about Spider-Man, but it seems like we had enough Spider-Man news.
There's been a lot of that. Well, the thing is, that's all there's been today. I spent time looking through other movie news. I'm like, what else is out there? And it was nothing really.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that, but I think we had enough. And actually, this last conversation brought something to mind, which is, I guess, something you talked about before, which is the, I guess, oversaturation, at least I believe the oversaturation of movies in general within the box office. Just like, and I believe in one of your videos, you even said, like, I guess the middle class is what they're aiming for. And just even looking at this year alone, all the billion-dollar movies there's just so many of them, like month after month after month. At least I feel like, and also I guess you could also put in your own experience. Will it ever get to a point where we just not like implode, but just be too much and like it's just gonna kind of kill each other? Well, we actually already seen that with like Deadpool.
Well, it's all gonna go streaming. That's where it's gonna be. The movies will still be profitable. Movies are always going to be profitable to an extent, but it's the type of movie that you're going to see. It's going to be these massive experiences, right? Because people like to watch content, but now when you've got like, you know, Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and Amazon and DC Universe and the upcoming NBC Universal and whatever the HBO Max and whatever the fuck Comcast does.
Oh God.
You know, it's going to be this massive, massive, massive thing. And as a result of that, a lot of people are going to sit there and they're going to pick and choose. But they're still going to want to go see movies because people always justify entertainment. The thing is, though, it has to be affordable and it has to be good. Now, I have said this multiple times, and I maybe should do a video. There was a story recently, I think it's Regal, is going to be potentially considering sliding scale prices for films. Now, right now, and I'm sure most of you guys know this, what we've got is, you have your first run movies, brand new movies, and you have your second run theater. And the second runs are usually films that have been out for a little bit, maybe a month. And then they're like, it's way cheaper to see the movie, a couple bucks, generally speaking. And that's actually where the name $3 Theater came from. I worked for a second run movie theater in LA that was $3 after 6 p.m. So that's where the name came from. And so, but I've always said that if these movies want to bring in more people, if you're going to go to your, if you're in a town, like I'm in a town with 2 theaters, right? Really only one. And there's another one in another town that's not too far away. It's a Cinemark and it's a Regal, and the Cinemark is closer. And I find it to be a nicer theater, but it's the same price for a movie. They've got movies that came out a month ago that are the same price as movies that came out last week. And I'm like, why don't you guys start scaling the prices? I know Tuesdays, the $5 Tuesday is a nice thing, but if a movie's over 2 weeks old, drop it to $5. Make your matinee like Make your matinee $5 and make your evening price $7 or something. Start lowering the price and create a scaling system. Now, people who want to see the movie right away are always going to go see the movie right away. Like I said, people will justify entertainment. But once they see what they want to see, they might go, I don't have enough money to go back and see another movie. And so they wait and they hold off, and then they don't do it because they're so distracted by another movie coming out that they want to see that's coming up in a week or two. So I might as well hold on to my cash right now and go see that other movie. Or I can just wait long enough and it's going to be on streaming. You see what I'm saying here? Like there's so many options now that your draw to get people to the theater is not there. It's the price is too goddamn high. And the same goes with concessions because theaters make their money with concessions.
Oh yeah.
You know, and so it's, no, trust me. I fucking, dude, this is like the industry I worked in. So they do that. I mean, and I'm notorious for like sneaking in food. Fuck, dude, I'm terrible at it. I went and saw Hellboy, right? Like I went to like the early screening of it. I went back in April, the preview night, and I'm like, oh man, I don't want to spend like $6 on a popcorn, because I don't like. I love popcorn, but I like air popped popcorn. You know, I don't like butter on it. So I went to like Walmart and I bought one of those like. It was like smart popcorn, which is not smart. It's still fucking terrible for you. But I bought the light white cheddar, and I'm like, and then the bag is big and it's crinkly, and I'm like, maybe I can slide it in my jacket. Nope. You know, and I'm like, I got myself a bottle. I walk in with water. I don't ever care. They don't care about water. Because I bring some of those like, you know, little like, what are they called? Like the sweetener packets, right?
Yeah, I know.
Just it's like, just add water, sugar-free, low calorie, blackberry lemonade from Walmart. Great shit. Throw 2 of those in a 1 liter, and I have myself a nice fruity drink to sip on while I'm watching a movie. Anyway, I have like a little tote bag in my car for groceries because plastic bags up here are illegal. And so I just threw the popcorn in there, threw the drink in there, threw my jacket on top of it. And I walked into the theater and like, no one said a damn word. No one cares. Whereas if I was working the theater, man, I'm on that shit like a fucking rat terrier. I'm all, you've got soda and it's a Pepsi. I mean, no, literally, there is at least one negative Yelp review written about me at the old theater because I blocked the lady from bringing in some stuff. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. Hey, I'll say this. Going back to the whole point you said about the whole streaming and
yeah, sorry, I got off on a tangent. Yeah. That's what I do. That's what happens.
Worry, but this connects back. You're not, I guess, the only cheapo. Like, I went to go see Spider-Man a few weeks before. The only reason why I went in there, because I barely get to see movies in theaters, if that, like once a year. The only reason why I went to go see it because my one of my parents' friends gave them free movie tickets, and they're like, "Hey, go watch anything you want." We decided to go see Spider-Man. Had a ticket for like a free popcorn, and we even snuck in like a water or so. You know, same thing as you. So I'm in that, I guess, situation as many people. Is just if I had the money, I would go to movie theaters hands down. You know, I just like the big screen, but it's just not like tangible anymore. You know, just for everything going on. And
well, it's not tangible for how many movies are coming out every week.
But that too.
So you know, it's one of those things. It's really not tangible for any of that. So people pick and choose. Choose, and yeah, and all it does is ultimately hurt the industry because that's where they make the bulk of their money. And you know, if they created a sliding scale where you know you could go see a movie, you know, a week after it comes out, and it's you know $1 less or $2 less or something, you might go do that because then you could maybe justify if you take a couple people. Oh, we have a few extra dollars. We're going to go put it towards concessions. You have to make it worth their while. And you have to make it easy to do the math. I mean, granted, people use their cards, so it's like not having direct cash on you, but people still are cheap. And if you give them a bundle that seems easy enough, they'll take it because they don't have to fucking think about it. And that's the last thing you want when you have people going to a theater is them to think. They're not there to think. They're there to watch. I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you at all. The easier you make everything, the better of an experience it is. People are like, yeah, it was great. Yeah, because you didn't have to fucking think. So I'm hoping that one day, you know, the movie companies, the movie studios pick up on it because, or not movie studios, but theaters are going to pick up on it because they're going to have to. They're not going to have much of a choice.
Yeah, at least going off AMC, they have this stub program actually that looks pretty cool. So
Yeah, there's no AMC near me, so I can't go on there.
Dang, man, you're missing.
I mean, yeah, well, even like even talking about like stuff going to streaming, like even Viking Elmore Reviews here says that the Orville's going to going to Hulu, which makes sense. That's where the audience is, and they'll be able to get bring people to Hulu that are fans that watch on Fox, and it's just going to be good to have a Hulu original that's a popular sci-fi show that kind of takes the piss out of Star Trek. So there's again, that's what we're seeing in a lot of these places. But all right, man. Well, hey man, I'm gonna let you go because I see I've gotten a couple missed phone calls here on Skype. So, but hey, thanks for stopping by, and we'll definitely talk again soon.
All right, see you, man.
See you, man. All right, so whoever shot a call in on the phone line, you can call back, and we'll get to that here in a second, or just take a look at the chat for a few. All right, so AMC too much, Fox 2000 making original movies for Hulu and Disney Plus. Yeah, I mean that's kind of why Disney bought Fox stuff. Sorry, I don't answer the unknown phone calls. So that's just for don't do the unknown. You gotta have a regular number there. All right. Let's see. The rightful Queen Daenerys Targaryen apparently is back. Hey, how's it going? Are you here to yell at me some more because I said that Game of Thrones was more George R.R. Martin's fault than Dan and Dave? Ooh, throwing down that shade. All right. Let's see. Hello?
Hello?
Hey, what's going on, man?
I'm doing pretty well. I just wanted to ask you, I know you've been talking a lot about like Spider-Man on the show, but I don't think I got your opinion about the new Matrix.
Oh, I talked about that last night.
The new Matrix movie.
Yeah, it's I don't know necessarily what to think about that because how are you going to bring back Neo or Trinity?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking because I have no idea how they're going to continue it since Neo's dead, and they brought back Keanu and they brought back Carrie-Anne Moss. So it's probably like another like Toy Story 4 situation where they have such an like incredible idea that they have to bring back, the Matrix just so they can make the story. But I'm just thinking like what could it possibly be? It's like something like Matrix to me was one of those franchises that was 100% done, and it's kind of like the most surprising news. Yeah. Even more surprising to me than Spider-Man, to be honest.
Well, no, it was, and that's the thing. It came out, and like I think Warner's is all going like, "Huh? Wait, no, what? No." We got totally swallowed by everything because everyone was talking about Spider-Man. So I kind of view it like this. So I think what's going to happen is I think in the real world, Trinity's clearly dead, right? In the,
yes.
She's clearly dead. But Neo died in the Matrix, and yes. He died in the Matrix. His body's dead, and they say if you die in the Matrix, you die in real life, sort of thing. But he was also the one,
pretty much.
So he could also manipulate the code the way that he wants. So he's not dead; he's just part of the code, which means he can manifest himself probably in many different ways. Considering the fact that he's clearly an allegory for Christ. So if he can create and manipulate the code as he sees fit, the fucker can easily recreate Trinity.
Yeah, well, I was like, so I read about the Matrix, and it was kind of like this cyclical thing where the one would come around every cycle. When the one dies, it reboots the Matrix, and then the next one would come. And I also read that like a new Morpheus was being cast, like in a younger version or something.
Well, it's it's not. It's meant to be like a young. Because keep in mind, it was like 15, 16 years ago, right? So it's meant to be like a younger version of Lawrence Fishburne. I'm like, dude, they have de-aging technology. They just made Samuel Jackson look 30 years younger or 20 years younger.
And Lawrence Fishburne is still very active. Like he's a very active Fishburne.
So
actor.
If they're like we're recasting Morpheus, I think a lot of people would be like, no. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
But like something that came to mind, like because like I connected these like after I found the news. what if the next Matrix is like a John Wick origin story, and Keanu is there, and obviously Lawrence Fishburne's in the John Wick franchise, but if like Keanu Reeves like gets reborn as the one, but the one is like John Wick, and it's like an origin story about him, and like they could tie those two franchises together, but it's just kind of like
do you
stupid
really
little
want them
idea.
to like, yeah, do you really want them to bring John Wick into the, I don't look, John Wick is perfect the way that it is. Okay. It's perfect the
But
way
we
that
don't
it is.
exactly know like his origin. Like we just know
True.
like he used to be some badass, right? And like they could tie it in. Like it's definitely a stretch, but they were thinking about doing like this Men in Black 21 Jump Street collab.
Yeah.
Like
I still want to figure out how the hell, I still want to figure out how the hell that's going to work. I do.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then,
I mean, they could
there's stupid
probably
movies, and
try.
that's what I want to see. I think after Men in Black International kind of took a shit, which I didn't think that was that terrible of a movie. I kind of liked it. It was funny for what it was. But yeah, I'm just, oh, geez. Oh, man. I want to see 21 or 23 Jump Street or Men in Black 23 or whatever the fuck they want to call it. Or MIB 23 or whatever the hell it is. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I think like, you know, I think the Matrix is interesting in regards to the concept, but we've also got stories that are like, I mean, you ended the machines, you freed humanity by sacrificing yourself for their sins, apparently. Okay, Jesus Christ. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the situation where they still, you know, like they want to tell a story, and apparently they had a story they want to tell. It could be, you know, a number of, I don't know. I mean, my concern is also that it's not both Wachowskis.
It's just one of the sisters.
It's just one of, it's Lana Wachowski, who I believe is probably the more creative of the two. If you want my honest opinion, it's the vibe I've always gotten.
The more skilled of the two.
The skill of the two, yeah, it's kind of the vibe I got, yeah. But then again, the Wachowskis doing, like, you know, Speed Racer is a fucking phenomenal movie. So
yeah, but they also did like Jupiter Ascending and like I know they did some other really terrible movie, like the last one they made or something. And I'm kind of scared that like I'm kind of scared because I don't know if I think Lana Wachowski or Lena Wachowski was
Lana.
I don't know if she's like she's directing and writing and producing all three, or is she just doing like production and writing? I don't really know, because like
she's doing writing, and she has a script partner, not her sister, and then a couple. I think she has like two, and then they're also going to be doing. Then they've also got the she's directing, and so, but I don't know. I really wonder though if Lily Wachowski was kind of done with it because of. You know, they recently closed down their Chicago production studio. I think sometime in mid 2018, they shut it down. And it was really kind of confusing to a lot of people. Like, what does this mean? Because there was like nothing there. They said they're just shutting it down. And then it's possible that they moved back out to LA. And then, you know, Lana's like, hey, let's go back to the Matrix. And Lily's like, I don't want to. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be the same damn thing.
It makes me nervous, but that like, only one of them came up with this idea, and like not like it wasn't like a really good idea they both came up with and say, oh, let's go back and revisit the Matrix. It's just one of them had an idea, and like now they're like going full force with it, and they brought back all the stars and everything. And I'm just wondering if this is just going to be like another just wasted movie, like another reboot that it shouldn't be made.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what that's kind of how we find ourselves in these situations is, you know, a lot of the stuff is kind of wasted, and a lot of the stuff is kind of ridiculous. And, you know, Hollywood is running out of ideas, and the new ideas are coming to streaming services where there's money and there's a demand for fresh content, and that fresh content can yield some pretty interesting results.
Yeah. And probably, you know, she's riding the wave of like Keanu Reeves is like very like his popularity recently, she probably thinks that her idea isn't like the most interesting or like the most like mind-blowing idea, but like she knows that if like they bring back like the stars and Keanu Reeves, that it would be like a success, even though it wouldn't be that good of a movie. But I mean, Keanu Reeves
they're hoping.
must have
They're
read
hoping.
the script. Yeah, Keanu Reeves must have agreed to the script. So I mean, it should be something like interesting at least.
Yeah, I'd like to think that there would be that they've got a good idea, a good grasp on what they want to do. Warner's isn't just, they got clearly Lana went to Keanu, went to Carrie Ann Moss, got them involved, pitched the idea to them. They said, okay, we're on board. They probably signed letters of intent, and they presented that to Warner Brothers with the pitch. This is our idea. Warner's is like, all right, you got Keanu. Keanu's hot right now. He's hot right now. John Wick is
Pretty
huge.
much, yeah.
And people want to see, they're doing Bill and Ted 3, so maybe let's do another Matrix movie. And, Keanu was always, I think, on board for another movie too. I think he'd said he was on board for another film, only if everybody came back. And, if they got a good story, I'm willing to see it. The Wachowskis have been hit or miss in their storytelling in the last subsequent 15 years. So, we'll have to wait and see how it comes together. But The Matrix was one of my all-time favorite films. And I like the sequels. I even enjoyed the sequels.
You like the sequels too?
I do, yeah. I like the sequels too.
I felt like the franchise sort of dwindled. It got worse and worse for me.
Well, I'm not saying they were like the best films of all time, but I'm saying for what they were.
Yeah. I'm like, they were like enjoyable, like both of the sequels were, but I felt like the quality dropped by each release. And it kind of just went out, and now I don't know like how they want to revitalize that. They have to like capture the magic of the first one again in order to, make a good Matrix movie now. Because there's only one that's like extremely good out of the other three. Yeah,
and that's where they're going to find themselves. But hey man, I'm gonna let you go because I'm gonna wrap this thing up. I've been on for about 2 hours, and I try to keep it about that point.
Okay. Well, it was nice talking to you. Thank you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much for calling. I really appreciate it. And we'll call back again anytime.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
All right. Have a good one, dude. Peace out. All right. Close out Skype at some point. See if I can get this thing to actually close. All right. Seems to be shut down finally. Cool. All right. So I'll talk to you guys for a few more minutes, and then I'm going to get going. The Matrix in one big story. I completely agree. I will probably be hanging in the Discord a little bit after the fact in order to, because I have to still do some editing before I go to bed. I might be in there for a few. So if you guys want to check in the Discord, the link is in the video description. I'll just post it in here so you guys can see all that. Anyway, I heard something about Tom Holland unfollowing Sony on Instagram, which, it's a passive aggressive move, but it's interesting, I guess. I don't know. I thought about making a video on it, but ultimately I opted against it because I felt there were other things worth talking about tonight, guys. So anyway, that being said, I'm gonna wrap this thing up for the night. We've been on for a while. I'll be back on tomorrow night for the last show of the week. And of course, I really appreciate everyone watching, everyone calling in. And have yourself a great night, guys. If you missed the show and you want to catch the playback, it's go to the front page. The playlist is on the front page. Provided you're subscribed to the channel, you will see it. And have yourself a great night, guys. Peace out.